Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Pick Army Recap Show, Week 16. I'm John. That's Eric. Let's dive in and take a look. Army went 1-1 this week, and let's see what happened there. We liked Miami minus 2.5 going into Las Vegas. Eric, what did you think on this game, man?
Yeah, the Dolphins got a win, but a pretty disappointing one. This is what I'd call obviously we lost against the spread with the Dolphins only winning by 1. And frankly, we're in a position where they might have lost the game. So it stinks that we didn't get a cover, but I'll also say this for any Dolphins fans out there. That's one of those that's a bad loss. Tua Tagovailoa didn't look good. They needed Fitzmagic to come in and a pinch of luck as well to get out of there and keep their playoff hopes alive. You know, we had talked about this a few weeks ago, and a number of big pundits had talked about it, where you look what happened in Arizona a number of years ago where they draft Josh Rosen in the top 10 or 12, somewhere in there. I'm pretty sure it was top 10, and the guy couldn't get it done. They turn around and draft a quarterback in Kyler Murray with the first overall pick the following year. It's curious about whether or not they're going to do that with Tua, because he has not had a game where he looked dominant. He's looked like a game manager. He's looked competent, but he's undersized. He has an injury history, and Houston lost yesterday. So that first round pick that the Dolphins got from Houston, that pick keeps climbing and climbing. I think it's somewhere around 6 or 7 at this point. In a quarterback heavy draft, could the Dolphins be tempted to draft another QB? I don't think it's out of the question if they can get a little bit of draft capital back for Tua. And then the other question becomes, who are the Dolphins going to start in the playoffs? This is a good team. This is a good defense that has a shot to win a game or two. I don't think a Super Bowl, but they can really kind of let it rip in the playoffs. They're playing with house money pretty much at this point. So a win, a loss against the spread, but also some real concerns heading into January for the Dolphins. That was not a good performance by any stretch. And frankly, I didn't even think their defense looked that good. So questions abound in Miami. It'd be interesting to see what happens over the next couple weeks as we get into the playoffs.
Lucky is right. And Fitzmagic, I mean, what can you say about this guy? He comes in, he gets the job done pretty much every time he does it. Seattle -1 hosting the LA Rams. I disagreed with this pick. The Army liked Seattle. Eric, let's take a look and see what happened here, man.
Yeah, I agreed with this pick, although it was a lean, not a like. It was not in my final 4 picks, although I went 0-4 this week, so far be it from me to lecture on solid Week 16 plays. Seattle looked solid, and the bottom line is they had the best player on the field with Russell Wilson. He looked like an MVP candidate, although I do think it goes to Aaron Rodgers. Seattle clinches the division. They were the best team. The Rams had a few moments there where they looked absolutely rock solid, but Jared Goff has really regressed. If you get any pressure on him at all, he folds like a lawn chair, and the defense can only take them so far. I think LA's defense was probably the best overall unit on the field, but that quarterback position is so important. We had the better quarterback only laying a point with teams who know each other because it's in division. So I agreed with the Army on this one, and we were able to get the cover going 1-1 on the week.
Tough loss for the Rams going into the playoffs here. Big injury to Jared Goff. Definitely think that had an impact on the outcome of that game.
John, all good stuff, man. How did you do on your individual picks before I embarrass myself? How did you do for your official Pick Army picks this week?
So my official Pick Army picks, I didn't do great. I was proud of my one win, but I went 1-2-1. I got a push in Denver. I lost Washington and the Eagles. I was blatantly wrong on both those games. But the Steelers helped me out there and pulled out a game late, so I was proud of that one.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Yeah, I went 0-4 here. I had Indianapolis, who collapsed late. I had Washington. I was with you on that one, -2.5, who just got boat raced. I don't know what happened to their defense, man. And I will say this for Washington. Now it's going to be interesting, because if Washington doesn't make the playoffs, then they're going to be another one of those top 10 teams that is in desperate need of a quarterback. Alex Smith, I think, is shot. Frankly, I think in some instances it's dangerous to have him out there. And Dwayne Haskins can't play. Dwayne Haskins is not an NFL quarterback. Frankly, I don't even think he's a backup.
So, yeah, actually, just saw this. Dwayne Haskins has been released by the Washington football team. They waived him today.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, that I can't say I'm surprised. I think I probably would have waited until the end of the year, considering you've got a quarterback in Alex Smith who's on one leg and you might need the guy to go in for mop up time. I'll be curious to know what the background is on that, whether, he's just came in with an attitude or something of that nature. But the Ohio State quarterbacks continue to underwhelm in the pros. So I had Washington -2.5, had Miami -2.5, who got a win but not a cover. And then finally, I had Tennessee +3 to 3.5 against the Packers. I got to tell you, man, I have been hot cold on the Packers this year because sometimes they don't show up, but boy, did they last night. I think the big thing that's going to end up being the reason that Tennessee may actually even miss the playoffs, but I think get bounced in round one after an incredible run to the AFC Championship game last year, is that Tennessee just doesn't have a pass rush. They cannot put any pressure on the opposing quarterback. I liked Tennessee because of Green Bay's difficulties in the run game. Green Bay's difficulties in run defense, I should say, in previous weeks. So I thought Derrick Henry, who's just a load, would have his way with that defense. And boy, was I wrong. No pass rush on Aaron Rodgers. That spells a loss. And in this case, a blowout. So 0-4 for the big guy. Hey man, if I was any good at picking games, I wouldn't have started Pick Army. So here's case in point as to why it's more fun to talk to the crowd.
It's fun to talk to the crowd, and I'm pretty new at picking games, and like you say, sometimes there's a little bit of Joes versus pros, and sometimes the Joes pull one out, and it looks like I pulled one out with the Steelers last night. Definitely, as I was watching that game, Steelers had no business winning that game, but hey, you got to play all 4 quarters and the entire time of the game, and they did that, and they were able to pull out the victory.
I got to tell you, I've been really critical of Mike Tomlin for the past few weeks, and Frank Reich is a top 10, if not top 5 coach. And Tomlin went in at halftime and fixed the problems and beat a really good Colts team, a really good defense, shut down that offense. I mean, I also said this at the beginning of the season that I thought the Phillip Rivers signing was the most questionable offseason move of any organization. I think Phillip Rivers is just shot. I think he's now a better trash talker than he is a pocket passer. Runs like a phone booth, as people say. He's got no escapability, and even behind an offensive line as good as that, there's only so much that you can do. I think a good part of that loss also goes on Rivers, but very impressive, man. If you're a Steelers fan after giving up multiple losses in a row, you got to like what you saw in the second half yesterday and the momentum that gives you going into a really important game against the Browns, and then even more to the point, the playoffs in January.
Yeah, exciting stuff for the Steelers. Exciting stuff for a lot of teams in the NFL. Teams that we thought were dominant, I think, are coming. Like you said, the cream is rising to the top. The good teams are showing up right now and making themselves set up for a good playoff push. Like we said last week, these are going to be phenomenal playoffs, and I'm looking forward to it.
It's true that, as I had mentioned before, the week to week can be a roller coaster ride. But, Tom Brady got a dominant win. The New Orleans Saints got a dominant win. The Las Vegas Raiders blew a late lead. The Ravens dominated. The Browns lost to one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Houston Texans lost to one of the worst teams in the NFL. There are patterns that do emerge and do stay consistent, and that's happened here. There are some nice runs that teams go on, but things do tend to regress to the macro view. Seattle's going to the playoffs. So are the Steelers. It looks like the Ravens are as well. A Tom Brady-led team is going to go. Drew Brees-led team is going to go to the playoffs. The Dallas Cowboys might sneak in, but the NFC least isn't a conversation worth having. My point, in a long-winded way, is that despite the fact that there are ups and downs through the season, it tends to regress to the macro overall view that these organizations, they say poker is a game of chance, and yet certain players are consistently profitable while others are not. Football is football is a very oddly shaped ball, and it bounces a number of different ways. But when the season is over, it's consistently well-run organizations that are playing in January. I think that's the big lesson from Week 16. A lot of regression. You look at the Browns. You look at having a lack of success. You look at the Ravens having success. It's going to be a really good playoffs, that's for sure.
Well, there you have it, everybody. The Army has spoken. Eric and I have reviewed it. That will be concluding our Week 16 recap show. Please catch us again for our Week 17 reveal show. That will be on Saturday, where we'll dive in and look at these games that we have coming up. Anything before we sign off, man?
Just thanks for continuing to get your picks in, and keep in mind, we are all systems go for Week 17 and all rounds of the playoffs, including the Super Bowl. So a smaller consideration set. Therefore, the thinking will be more focused. Let's see if we can go in there and pull out some winners. Good luck.
Yeah, and for Eric, I'm John. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Thanks, John. Much appreciated.